It was a quiet night at the Maplewood Memorial Hospital. The mortuary, located in the basement, was dimly lit and eerily silent, save for the occasional hum of the refrigeration units. The security guard on duty, 45-year-old Frank Reynolds, was making his rounds, checking the cameras and ensuring everything was secure. Frank had worked the night shift for over a decade, and nothing ever happened until tonight. At around 2 a.m., Frank noticed something unusual on one of the security monitors. The camera feed from the mortuary showed a body bag on one of the stainless steel tables. The bag was moving. Frank froze, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. He leaned closer to the screen, squinting to make sure he wasn't seeing things. The body bag twitched again, then shifted slightly, as if something inside was trying to get out. "What the hell?" Frank muttered, his heart pounding. He grabbed his flashlight and radioed his partner, a younger guard named Mike. "Mike, you need to see this. Something's going on in the mortuary." Mike's voice crackled over the radio. "What do you mean, something's going on?" "Just get down here," Frank said, already heading for the stairs. When Frank and Mike entered the mortuary, the room was cold and silent. The body bag was still on the table, motionless. Frank approached cautiously, his flashlight beam trembling in his hand. "Maybe it was just the air conditioning or something," Mike said, trying to sound calm. Frank wasn't convinced. He reached out and unzipped the bag, revealing the face of a middle-aged man with pale, waxy skin. The man's eyes were closed, and there was no sign of movement. "See? Nothing to worry about," Mike said, letting out a nervous laugh. But just as Frank started to relax, the man's eyes snapped open. Both guards jumped back, their flashlights clattering to the floor. The man sat up slowly, his movements stiff and unnatural. His head turned toward Frank and Mike, and his lips curled into a grotesque smile. What are you?" Frank stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The man didn't answer. Instead, he swung his legs off the table and stood up, his movements jerky and mechanical. Frank and Mike backed away, their hearts racing. "We need to call the police," Mike said, fumbling for his radio. But before he could make the call, the man lunged at them, moving faster than should have been possible. Frank and Mike scrambled out of the room, slamming the door shut behind them. Back in the security office, Frank and Mike reviewed the footage from the mortuary camera. What they saw made their blood run cold. The body had been moving long before they entered the room. The bag had twitched and shifted, and at one point, the man's hand had emerged, clawing at the air. But the most disturbing part was what happened after they left. The footage showed the man walking around the mortuary, his movements becoming smoother and more deliberate. He opened drawers, examined tools, and even looked directly into the camera, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Then, he did something that made Frank's stomach churn. He reached into his own chest and pulled out a small metallic object, a device of some kind covered in blinking lights. He held it up to the camera as if taunting them before disappearing into the shadows. The police arrived within minutes, but by the time they searched the mortuary, the man was gone. The only evidence he had ever been there was the empty body bag and a faint trail of black liquid leading to a ventilation shaft. The investigation that followed uncovered even more disturbing details. The man in the body bag had been identified as John Doe, a homeless man who had been found dead in an alley 3 days earlier. But according to the coroner's report, John Doe had been dead for over a week before he was brought to the hospital. "How is that possible?" Frank asked the lead detective, a no-nonsense woman named Ramirez. Ramirez shook her head. "I don't know, but this isn't the first time something like this has happened." She showed Frank and Mike a file containing reports of similar incidents from other hospitals and morgues across the country. Bodies moving on their own, strange devices found inside them, and witnesses reporting glowing eyes and unnatural strength. As the days turned into weeks, Frank couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He started noticing strange things, shadows moving in the corner of his eye, his radio picking up static and faint whispers, and a lingering smell of decay in the air. One night, as Frank was leaving the hospital, he saw a figure standing across the street. It was the man from the mortuary, his glowing eyes fixed on Frank. The man raised his hand, revealing the same metallic device he had shown on the camera. Before Frank could react, the man disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a single word scrawled on the wall: "Soon." To this day, Frank refuses to work the night shift. He and Mike have both quit their jobs at the hospital, but they can't escape the feeling that something is coming. And when the dead start walking again, they'll be ready. If you found this story touching and inspiring, please like the video, share it with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for following along, and we'll see you next time for more uplifting tales.